This video, we are going to see some most important and frequently used annotation provided by Json library. These annotations are heavily used while our day-to-day coding with Json, and they are very important to know while doing any customized data binding. So let's see them one by one. So first one is JSON property, second is JSON ignore, third is JSON ignore properties, fourth is JSON include, fifth is JSON property order, and sixth one is JSON format. So our first annotation is add JSON property. Add JSON property used to map a JSON field to a Java field. So you can see here from JSON side it is user underscore name, and at other end from Java side it is username. Our object mapper doesn't know about how to bind user underscore name to user name. To do that, in our Java Pojo class, what we will do, on top of our username field, we will apply user underscore name in double quotes using @JSON property annotation. This way we are telling, hey object mapper, just bind whatever coming in JSON user underscore name to use name. Let's do a hands-on on this. You can see I have a JSON here which has two keys. One is name as Alice and another one is number 3001. But if you go, I want to convert into my credit card, and if I go to my credit card, the structure is a little different. So I have 5 fields here: card holder name, card number, CVV, expiry, and created date. But you can see in my JSON there are no such fields called card holder or card number, anything. So there are some key mismatch. But I know that this name belongs to and matches to card holder name. So I want to match this JSON name to my card holder field. So how I will do that? So first let's try without doing any JSON property. So let's see what we will get. So JSON mapper object mapper dot read value, and my source data is account JSON. I want to convert as a credit card dot class, and we have to handle the exception, JSON processing exception. Let's hold it in credit card. I don't want to print because it's gonna throw some exception, but just to check what type of exception we will get, let's check it out. Okay, as I told, we are going to get the exception because if you see here, unrecognized field name. So while doing parsing, this name is not going to map with any of the field because they are not available here. So to overcome for that, I will do add JSON property, and in double quotes I will say name. So basically I'm giving an instruction here to my Json library, or basically object mapper, that please whatever coming in JSON as a name, please bind it to card holder name. Now let's try again, and also this time I will try to print so that we can see the mapping has been done correctly or not. Credit card, let's run it again. Okay, so basically also number is, we don't have any number field here, so we also have to map with some fields. This card number can be mapped with the number. I'm interested in mapping my JSON number to card number, so for that I will also do JSON property and number. Now let's run the code again. Okay, so this time gets deserialized, converted back to Java, and we try to print here as a credit card. So you can see here card holder name. So this name value, which is Alice, has been mapped to card holder name, and card number, this number value 3001 has been mapped to card number as a 3001. Since we don't have any value, any data here for CVV, expiry, or created date, by default they are null. So this was about JSON property. You learned that how to map any JSON field to any Java object using this @JSON property annotation. Now let's move to another annotation, which is JSON ignore. So JSON ignore what basically does that, it excludes a field from serialization and deserialization. So let's suppose in my Java object I have a password field which I don't want to serialize here. So that kind of customization we can do with the JSON ignore, means we are ignoring a specific field in serialization and deserialization. Basically in data binding we are ignoring a particular field. So to do that, in our Java class, on top of any field we can use add JSON ignore. So it will be ignored while doing serialization and deserialization. So let's do on code. So in my credit card you can see I have also a CVV number. So CVV numbers sometimes are like a little secret or private to the card holder, and we don't want this to be the part of serialization. Now you can see in our previous example, even though we don't have any CVV value as a null, but it is still there in our object, JSON object. So if I do that, add JSON ignore. So this way we can ignore this CVV from our serialization process. So to simulate JSON ignore, what I am doing, I will convert my credit card into a JSON, and I don't want CVV to be serialized. So for that, let me create a credit card object. I have created a credit card object here, and I am assuming that for that credit card there is some CVV number. But while doing serialization, I don't want CVV to be persisted. Convert JSON2 equal to object mapper dot write value as a string, and it's going to be credit card, and let's print it out to check whether CVV is going to be persisted in JSON or not. Let's run this example. Okay, I get a Java 8 datetime API is not supported by default. So if you see here, I have used a local date here object, and this has been added in Java 8, and our Json library is not supporting here. I have to do one setting here in object mapper as object mapper dot register module Java time module. To use this Java time module, also I have to add this dependency also, Jackson data type JSR30310. Import class. Create date should not create problem here. Now let's run this example. Okay, so we have expiry, we have created date, and we have name, and we have number. So we don't have CVV. So we have successfully excluded and ignored while doing serialization. So JSON ignore is used to ignore any field which is not part of serialization or deserialization. Now move to our next, the third annotation, which is JSON ignore properties. We saw JSON ignore, and it is similar to that. So JSON ignore properties means it is used to ignore a specific known properties during the serialization or deserialization process. It is same to JSON ignore, but it has some more other features. Main benefit of using JSON ignore properties are, instead of going to ignore each properties one by one, at our class level we can ignore many properties at once. Let me ignore CVV and expiry date together. So I will remove this JSON ignore from here, and I will use JSON ignore properties, in which I can provide my multiple fields also, and another is expiry. So let's run this one and test it again. Yeah, so both of them has been ignored in our serialization process. One more feature of JSON ignore properties is that, so let's suppose my class has only these 5 fields, and if the JSON input having the 6 field, and I don't want any 6, 7, 8 field to be considered in our serialization or deserialization process. Let's suppose password is coming in as my JSON input, and I don't want it to be the part of my deserialization process. So let's see the problem first, then we will see the solution. So let's convert the JSON credit card dot class, and let's print out the. Now let's see the output. You can see still what is happening. So you see here we get the unrecognized field password. So means when the client is adding any extra data, they are not part of my class, my service is breaking. So it is heavily dependent upon the client input. So let's suppose in future any third, fourth, fifth, any new fields gets added, my service will be breaking like this one. I just want name and number. I want to ignore any unknown properties because name and number has been already mapped here, name and number. But from my JSON input, a password, a new field password is coming. So what I will do, so instead of ignoring the properties in serialization and deserialization, there is another one benefit is that, so if I do ignore unknown equal to true, all the incoming and unknown properties from my client will be ignored while processing the JSON. So let's see the output. Even though we have a extra password field here in our JSON, my API is not breaking here due to this JSON ignore properties. Now let's move to the another annotation, which is JSON include. JSON include controls when fields are included in JSON. So sometime what happens that, let's suppose in our Java object there is a field called name Safdar, and I don't want to include any non-empty values. For that we have an annotation which is called add JSON include. JSON include dot include dot not null. Applying this one on a field, if the field have any empty value, it will be not considered in our serialization process. Can be applied on class or field label. So if it applied on class label and the rule is like not null, so all fields in our class which has null values will be not included, or we can also go with the field by field. Let's declare at the top at JSON include JSON include non-empty. So to simulate this one, so let's suppose in our previous example we created one credit card from this account JSON, and you can see there are some null values CVV, expiry and created date. So by after applying this annotation, I'm expecting they will be the not part of deserialization. So let's reuse this credit card as our data source, and string JSON2 equal to object mapper write value as a string credit card. So in this credit card object, there are some few fields which has no any data and they are empty. We don't want them to be the part of our serialization process. So let's see what output we got after applying that annotation. Let's print it out. You can see here in the console only name and number has been serialized and all others are ignored. So this is the way we can use JSON include. This time we use that non-empty value. We don't want any non-empty value to be serialized. Now moving to the next annotation, JSON property order. JSON property orders controls JSON field order mainly for readability. Let's suppose in our object there are two fields, name and ID. I want ID to be the first and name to be the second. In our JSON file, the sequence in which we provide the field names, they will be serialized in the same way. So here we have declared ID, name and email. So ID will be the first in our JSON and name will be the second and email will be the third. So let's see in our example. Give an order using add JSON property order in which I want to give, let's suppose card number. Card number I want at the first place, and then card holder name as the second place, and expiry as my third place. And I don't want to bother about CVV and created date. They can be in any order. So if I do that and if I try to convert my this credit card object into my JSON, will the order will be preserved or not? Let's see. In my credit card object, the sequence are little different: card holder name, number, CVV and expiry. But while doing serialization, in whatever sequence I wanted, it is here. So number first, name and then expiry and then others rest. So this is the way we can make sure that in which order we want every fields. Now moving to the next. The next annotation is JSON format. So JSON format is used in serialization and deserialization. So let's suppose in our Java object there is one field birth date and its date format is year, month and date. but I want something different. Let's suppose I want date first and month and then year. So in code, let me do one thing here. So as you know, local date has a default pattern of year, month and date. I don't want to serialize in this format. I want to change a little bit. So what I will do, I will use JSON format and I will give pattern equal to let's suppose I want today's date first, date and then month and the year. In previous example, before applying JSON format was year, month and day, year, month and day. So after doing this, let's see what is going to be the output. Okay, so year, this is the default one, year, month and year, month and day, and but in our serialization it is different. So this is the expected one, our day, month and year. So this was all about the important annotation given by the Json library, and these are the 6 most frequently used and most helpful. As developer, we should know all those annotations. So let's wrap it up and summarize what we learned today. First was JSON property. So it is used to map from one field to another field, from JSON to Java object. JSON ignore is used to ignore any specific field which we don't want to be the part of data binding. The another was JSON ignore properties. So let's suppose any XYZ or random fields are getting sent by the client and our services are breaking. So to stop that thing, we can use JSON ignore properties. So it will stop mapping any unknown properties. JSON include is used to customize whether we want any null or empty fields to be the part of serialization or not. JSON property order ensures that in which order we want our JSON data. JSON format is used to convert the date and numbers. So we saw that how to convert one default local date pattern into our custom one. If you learned something today, then please like the video and subscribe the channel. See you in the next video.